So good afternoon everyone. So I want to make a quick buyer's guide, maybe it's a little bit long, quick buyer's guide on how to buy a new C6 if you're looking to kind of move into the C5 category or C6 specifically category Corvette. Just recently I lost my C5 Corvette, and there'll be more to be followed on that due to an accident, and I decided to move up to a C6. And I just want to kind of walk through the process of exactly what to look for if you're a brand new buyer, or even if you're a veteran buyer, the things that I've looked for when I'm actually going out and buying a vet. Recently, since I've graduated, I've owned about 7 Corvettes, and I've actually purchased 4 of them. Two of them being C5s, and 2 of them being C6s that I've purchased recently within the last like 4 or 5 years. With that being said, what you want to determine is what your price range is. Whether it's in the teens, the 20s, or the 30s will really dictate what years of Corvette, the C6 you're going to be looking into, what mileage and what condition you're going to be able to afford. I've seen C6s go for online for as low as $13,000 with high mileage and all these other type of things, and all the way up to $60,000 or $70,000 if you're looking for the ZR1 range. A little bit of background is the C6 Corvette ran from 2005 to 2013, and from 2005 to 2007 they had the LS2 engine as the powertrain, making 400 horsepower. The 2005 Corvette specifically had the A4 automatic transmission as well as the M6 transmission. From 2006 and onwards, it had an A6 transmission with paddle shifting gears for the auto, and as well as the M6 transmission as well. So 2008, that's when the LS3 come out, making about 432 or 435 horsepower, and that went from 2008 to 2013. Sometime around there, I can't remember, I think it was 2010 is when the Grand Sports hit the market, and they came out the same powertrain of LS3, but they also had a lot of Z06 additions, which I will talk about later. As well, on top of that is that their 2006 is when the Z06 Corvette actually hit with the LS7 engine, making 505 horsepower. And I don't know exactly when the ZR1 hit, but that's about 636. But you can look at all those specs online. So once you determine your price range, what I highly recommend, I know I'm looking down, I'm looking at my notes here, is what you're kind of looking for. So do you want to, once you determine price range, do you want a modded vet? Do you want a stock vet, or do you want a stock vet with light modifications? So the last 2 C6s I purchased are relatively stock, but they're stock with light modifications. And when I say light modifications, I'm speaking cold air intake, or long tube headers, or just axle back exhaust and things of that nature, or maybe upgraded wheels. Nothing significant like a cam package or a head and cam package, or big new shocks, new suspension, none of that crazy stuff, but pretty much stock. And so that's kind of what the video is going to be really around, is kind of focusing on like a stock one or a lightly modded stock one, and then I'll go into a little bit more about what to look out for if you're looking for a modded one, because I had that nightmare experience as well. So without further ado, let me go and kick you off exactly what to do. So some of the resources that you can use when you start looking for your next vet purchase is, there's a whole bunch of sites out there. So you can use things like Car Gurus, Auto Trader, Cars.com. You can even go as far as looking at eBay, but I would highly discourage it. But if you're looking for some well-maintained cars, I've always had good success with the Corvette forum. And also you can also go to specifically Corvette dealerships. So things like Corvette World, or Corvettes of like Corvettes of Dallas, where I would be located, or some of the famous dealerships across the country, the Chevy dealerships that deal specifically in Corvettes. Usually when you go to those places, you're going to find Corvettes that have been well maintained, that meet good specs, that you really don't have to worry about looking through it too much, because they've done their good due diligence. But with that being said, you're going to be seeing Corvettes that probably cost a little bit slightly more, but you know you're going to be getting a pretty decent Corvette. So for my price range that that I went for going in this vet was like 20 grand or below. So I found 2 orange Corvettes, like the burnt orange color. One was a 2005 and one was a 2007. So they were what I did initially, I found these on Auto Trader. What I did initially is I went up, I looked up the KBB value, which is something you should do immediately. So for instance, if you're looking for a KBB value, here it is what I looked up for the 2007 Corvette and the 2005. So for this one I put in 2007 Corvette, about 100,000 miles, and it's about the range of low mid 16,000s to about $20,000 is what you're going to expect to pay for these, and then they'll actually help you on KBB find ones actually within that price range. Once you've done that and you kind of know what the ballpark is, then what I would do is I would go on to one of these sites or hit up a private seller or a dealer and then request photos, and request as much information you can as possible, and then schedule through the photos, look through it. If it meets your color, if it meets the whether it's a manual or auto, if it meets those recommendations, I would actually just go ahead and just schedule an on-site visit. So the bulk of this how-to or this buyer's guide is what to do when you actually get on site, and that's what I'm going to cover next. I'm going to use the 2 vets that I actually have in the parking lot in the garage right now to go through it. So what we have here is a 2007 vet that I just got, and then I also have my wife's 2005 Corvette that you guys seen before in the introduction video. So when I first walked up to a dealership, what I would do is, after you hear the spiel from the sales rep and all that type of stuff, I will walk literally around and say, hey, if you mind if I just take a minute and start looking around the car. And what I would do immediately is I would go over to the driver's seat. That's exactly what I did. Open up the door, which is right here. Oh, don't have the keys, but that's really dumb. Okay, now I got the keys. So what I would do is, go in here, open up the door, get inside. Don't spend any time really looking around in here unless something jumps out of you. Go ahead and step on the brake down here and start the car. And I'm turning it off just so you can hear what I'm saying, but go ahead and start the car and turn the AC on, which is located right here, and turn it on to its full max. And that whole time is let the car run, get out of the car, and then start walking around. So when you're walking around, you're just looking for general things. You're looking for, cracks or general cracks, like cracks in the paint, any damage, and things of that nature. But what I would start is I would start at the top here. And so, start at the top and work your way down. So what you see here is you see a painted top, hard top that comes with the normal coupe vets. Now, there are other vets that will come with a glass top. So for instance, like my wife's vet right here, this is a glass top. So that might be a little bit of a concern if you notice that it has a glass top and it doesn't have a hard top, is I will ask the question, hey, do you actually have the hard top instead of this glass top? Because one of the concerns is once you get this glass top, it's all nice and light and things of that nature, but once you start driving around in the hot sun, the sun just starts beaming through on you and start burning you up literally. And the only way to mitigate that is either buy a new top or start buying like a solar shade or something like that to help block it out and keep the heat out. But usually some places, if a private seller, they usually have both tops and you can get both tops. And that can also be a negotiating point or a sticking point when you're talking to a dealership. After that, I will start moving down, start looking at the car, just looking over generally, look at the cleanliness the entire time. Look at, moving towards the hood, I looked at the headlights. So these headlights here, it might seem like a big deal. My headlights were in pretty decent shape. But one of the issues with some of the Corvettes is that, the older models start getting a lot of crazing and problems with the headlights to where, you know, it just starts getting fogged up. So for instance, you can look over here at my wife's vet. I've tried to restore them as best I can. I don't know if you can see them here in the video, but you know, they're not as clear as mine. And you know, all that craziness stuff, you know, can cost you money a little bit down the road. So a full headlight for a Corvette costs about $1,000. To get just the lens replaced, the part itself is about, you know, $300 or $250 and up, just to take the plastic off, and that's not including the labor and things of that nature. So that's a little bit of a thing you want to look out for when you're looking for a C6 Corvette. Next thing I will actually look at is I always look at the tires. I'll look at when these tires were made, and then I also look at the tread wear. So for instance, let me see here. Let me move to the back ones and see if they got it better here. So as you can see right here, you know, that last number 15, these means these tires are made in 2015. So you know, if the tire is about 3 to 4 years, they need to be replaced. You don't want to have incident to where no matter what the tread wear is, you know, after about 4 years, it starts becoming unsafe to actually driving on those type of tires. And you know, you can go back to stories of things like, you know, Paul Walker and things of that nature, that the tread wear looked actually really good on the tires, but the tires were so old that the rubber compounds and things of that nature broke down to where, you know, the car doesn't just stick as much. So in about a year or maybe even less, maybe this fall or this winter, I'm actually going to change these tires out, just because, you know, it's approaching that 3-year mark, and that's not what I like. So also another thing, you know, you're going to look at the tread wear, the tread depth, and see how much meat it actually has left, because you can spin tires. That's just a purchase that you have to look out for right after you buy the car. If the tires don't look that good, you're going to be spending about $1,000 at minimum to replace all 4 tires on a Corvette, and you can't rotate them from front to back because they are. You can't rotate them from front to back because they're staggered. So usually they're 18s in the front and then 19s in the back, and then they're different width as well, and also the tire size is actually different as well. So, but also during this whole time, while you're looking over the car and looking at the outside, you're just looking for things that really jump out at you. And you're also listening to the car as it idles, and you're listening for any sounds that just sound out of place. It should be for a stock car, even with exhaust on there, it should sound very smooth and a nice monotone rumble and things of that nature. I'll have it running a little bit later on what it should sound like, but it shouldn't sound anything out of place. It almost should sound like a normal car, that even with 400 horsepower. So a couple of red flags that might jump out at you is if you start seeing body damage, or you start seeing misaligned body panels, which means there was a wreck or something like that got replaced and it didn't get put back on there. One of the issues I saw with another vet is, you know, you go out and you actually look at it, and you got to look at the condition of how clean it is, because when you look at how clean a vehicle is, it really determines how well it's been kept, even on the outside. So if you go to a dealership and the car shows up in front of you and it's dirty, and they say, oh, we'll clean it if you buy it, well, they knew you were coming, so they should already had it cleaned prior to that. So it kind of gives you an indication of the level of competency of that dealership. And the same thing with a private seller, that, you know, if it's dirty, that means it probably wasn't taken care of as well as you probably think it was. But that's just a red flag for me. Everyone else has their own type of things. So while the car is running, after you go through, say everything looked okay on the outside and things of that nature, what you want to do is you want to actually go pop the hood, which is down here. So after you pop the hood, what you want to look for is how clean it is in the engine bay, because that also gives you an idea of how well maintained it is. And then also at the same time, while you're listening and you're listening for anything that's going wrong with the engine, if you hear any type of knocking or any type of tapping, and you're also looking for the cleanliness, you also look and see if there's actually any modifications in here that you don't know about, the dealer didn't know about, that weren't even told about. So this one's straight stock, so you won't see anything wrong with it. One thing I did notice here is that this is an aftermarket intake. It's a K&N, well, not intake, just the filter is aftermarket. It's a K&N filter, and I asked about that because it stuck out at me. However, when I went to look at another vet, they had a cable that was running right here that was just a big solid, like as big a gauge wire as a normal positive battery cable, and it was just dangling here. So I was like, what the heck is this? And so what I did is I started pulling on a wire, and it was actually frayed and disconnected, and I found out that it ran all the way underneath through the firewall, underneath the carpet, and ran up to the back of the car. And what this was actually someone had an aftermarket stereo or aftermarket subwoofer in there, and they disconnected and just left all the wiring there. It was something that I caught, but it was something that the dealer didn't even know about. And I also saw another vet that had an intercooler in there, and they didn't even know it had an intercooler in there because it was supposed to be turbocharged. But it didn't look right. There were some things off about it. But that's just something else when you want to go into modded cars. You got to be really meticulous on what you're looking for. So if everything checks out here, the car has been running the entire time. So what you want to do is you can either leave the hood up or leave it down. One thing I will recommend is if you're going to close the hood, don't do it yourself. Let the dealer do it, because you don't want to, if you close it a certain method, they might try to complain or things of that nature. Just let them touch things in the car. So what I would do next is I would get into, so the car is running. So this entire time, the car has been running, and this car has been, you know, already been driven today. And since the car has already been running, all the temperatures have been gotten up to speed and things of that nature, and gotten exactly where they're supposed to be. So another thing is here, you know, want to have the lights all on and make sure they're all working. You know, try the hazard lights, do all your normal stuff that you would see do while you're, you know, doing like a regular safety inspection. So like, you know, turn signals, the four ways, which are right here, and things of that nature. When you run through the gauges, so what you're looking for here is correct temperature ranges. So for the coolant, you want to start pushing these buttons, this button right here, and this button here will start moving through all your pages. So coolant temperature range, so you know, it idling in a summer day, it should be about 190 degrees to about 220 degrees. Anything lower or anything basically anything above that range is immediately a red flag. There might be a cooling issue. The coolant might need to be replaced, or something else is going on. There's also the manual gauge right here that will show it as well. So for coolant, you know, about 200, you know, that's what it should be normally, especially with the AC running, which I do have running right now. About 200 to about 220. For trans fluid, it hasn't been moving, so this is the appropriate temperature. I did just get driving it, so about 150 to about 210 is the range you're looking for there. Batteries normal. Your tire pressures should be about 30 all around. If they're at like 40 or something, that means someone's overfilled them, and they definitely need, that means they weren't reading the right sticker on the door, and it's just bad to have them at 40. It should be 30 all around. But at the same time, while you're looking here at the tire pressures, you want to make sure that all sensors are working, which means all of them should be giving you a reading. If any of them have like a double X next to them, that means they're not working. So to move on, what else? Oil pressure, that's normal. And oil temperature. Anything above 240 is a immediate red flag as well. So that's kind of like what you're just looking for on the pages. So, you know, and there's some other things to look through as well. So, but also when you get in the car, so what you want to look for here as well is the different types of trims that the Corvette comes in. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the car off. So this Corvette that I have here is actually the very basic lowest model that you can actually get. I forget what trim they actually call it. Maybe it's 1LT or 1SB or something of that nature, but as far as I know, it goes all the way up to 3SB. So when you're getting like a 1SB Corvette, you will notice that it does not have a HUD, which stands for a heads-up display, which is right here. My wife's car has a heads-up display, and I will show you what that looks like in just a second. So also in a basic model, you will notice it has no memory recall. So you'll see that it just has one set of buttons here, and you'll see in my wife's 3LT package it'll have two buttons on the outside that allows you to push a button and it'll automatically adjust your seat, adjust your HUD settings, and anything else you got set up, whether it's AC, radio station, all that will be adjusted to whoever users in that car. Another thing that would that the very basic model will have is that it will not have heated seats, which would be right here, controls for heated seats. It also does not have selective ride control, which will go right here that allows you to turn it from tour to sport mode on the suspension. Another thing it doesn't have is this radio I just put in the other day. I will show you what the very basic radio looks like, but it's just a normal CD player. It's not a double din you know, big screen touch screen like you have here. It'll be a normal CD with two knobs and things of that nature. Also, the passenger seat is not powered on a very basic model. So you got the manual pull out with the little track, the track down here that you have to lift up the handle, and no controls. And the same thing here on the driver's side. It is powered, but just this front and back and side to side and things of that nature. Just the very basic stuff that you actually get here on the interior package for a 1LT trimmed Corvette. But other than that, the whole time while you're going through the packages and looking through and you know, messing around with the buttons, what you want to do is you want to check out the cleanliness of it as well to see how well it's maintained. Did the dealer clean it up for you before they showed up? Are there any gashes in the seat? Is there any you know, marks from like jeans being rubbed up against it and things, and also and a whole bunch of other little just nuances? It should be in very good condition. One of the things that let you know that the car's been taken care of is these buttons right here, the start button, and also the door to get out of the car here, the door buttons. See, after 100,000 miles like this car has, these buttons get worn out considerably and they just kind of fade away, and you can spend about $30 or $40 to replace this button, about $100 to replace these because it's always getting pushed, and you just got to put them back in there. So when I got this car, these buttons had already been replaced, which means the owner took care of it and didn't like the aesthetics of it being worn out. Another thing that I know that the car was taken care of is this trim piece right here is not stock. This carbon fiber look does not come naturally with the Corvette. It's just a normal gray thing that is actually supposed to be there. So with that being said, go ahead and move on to what the interior will look like inside you know, upgraded package car. So here we are on my wife's upgraded like a 3LT package or something at Corvette, and it's a 2005. You can see on the 2005 here it has multiple spoked wheel and like 4 spokes, and 2006 and above had 3 spokes like you see on the other one. But what I want to highlight here is that you can see here these are all the gauges for your HUD, your heads-up display, that are not on the very basic model like mine. This is just blacked out, but it can be upgraded if I wanted to. Up here is actually the HUD, and you can see how my last video, on my last segment, that this was actually blocked out because there is no HUD there, and it'll project things on the glass, and it's actually a really great feature that I actually love. So also in this package you would get is the memory recall. As I said right here, here are the buttons that actually, you have an exit button as well, so it actually sets everything back, moves the when I say back, like the seats would go back, the steering column would move forward, and it'll allow you to exit the car a lot more with room, a lot more space and room. One will actually, you push one and it'll automatically adjust the car seats and also all the other settings to whatever you have it set there. And two will do the same thing for if you have a second passenger, or you have a second setting for, like, if you want to do race mode or you want to go cruising, you have a different setting for that. Also, to hit on is that this has upgraded Bose speakers, and the 1LT package does not. It has very basic, just normal speakers. It doesn't have the Bose amplifiers in there. To move on to the center, you can see this has the normal trim piece, as I was discussing earlier. It doesn't have carbon fiber, but this came with a DVD player, not necessarily a DVD player, but like a GPS unit head here, that I actually replaced with an aftermarket one. And it comes, and it's just a touchscreen DVD player with, a DVD player, GPS player with a CD that goes into it, and you also can control your audio through it all and stuff. So that comes in an upgraded package as well. Also, you will notice that right here the tombstone has a selective ride control. I can't remember if that means this is a Z51 or not, but you can change it from tour to sport mode, and that's one of the nice features that this one actually has. It will adjust for that. Another thing that has is the heated seats. I don't have the car on right now, but you can put it on hot, then you can put it on warm, then you can turn it off. And that's for heated for passenger and for driver. Another thing that it has that the basic one does not have is the seat controls. Are on the basic one, it just has this control, which makes it go forward, up and down, and tilting. But here it also adjusts the lumbar, and it also brings in these sides here in case you want the seat to hug you a lot more if you're going in tight turns and things of that nature. So those are some differences in the packages. This is the highest one you can get. That also has a home link button up here that I almost forgot about, that allows you to connect to your house. I don't know if you can see it. There we go. Allows you to connect to your house, so it'll open the garage door and things of that nature once you program it. And I have that programmed as well. And it just has some other little things that are just a little bit different. But some other things you want to look at on the outside of the Corvette that I forgot to talk about is some changes in the body styles. So I had a dealer try to tell me that he had a Z06 wide body or Z06 rear end on his Vet, and I said, okay, show me the pictures. Pictures weren't on there. They weren't on the pictures, and I knew exactly what I was looking for. So for instance, on this car right here, I knew it was taken care of well, is that it has a Z06 wide body rear end. So what you see here is rear brake cooling ducts that actually allow air up, and I saw they were functioning, and it dumps air into the rear brakes to actually cool them down. It also has these fender flares that it can stick out, and it allows you to allow wider tires here on the back. My wife's, as you see her on the very base model, this is the way it's supposed to be, is it doesn't have any of that stuff. It doesn't have any rear cooling brakes, and you can see that it doesn't flare out. So for her, she has about what she has, like 245s or something like that. I can't remember what she has on here, but I know you can go up to as far as 275 tires here on the base model rear end. Here, you can put, I got like 345s on the rear, so that's just one of the benefits that come with it. And you could tell that someone actually took care of it, because that whole process to put those on those parts alone cost about $1,000 or more. Then you have to paint, get them painted to match the car, and then you have to actually get them installed. Some other things that you will see that I'm going to show here on some side pictures is that to set them apart is that the very base model, as you can see, doesn't have any of that stuff. It doesn't have the rear, doesn't have the wide body kit. The rear fenders aren't wide. The gills are different. So as you can see here, the gills are, these are stock front gills in size. The next photo that you actually see is a Z06, and you can actually see it's a little bit wider. Then you can see a Grand Sports that actually have the double gills, and most of the times they're actually labeled if they're a real Grand Sport. If not, they won't put the Grand Sport on there. Then you can see the ZR1s and how unique it is with its little circles, and then the ZR1 hood, was actually a see-through hood, is one of the things that actually the ZR1 actually has. And also the front bumper on all of them and the rear quarter panels are all widened. So the rear corner panels are flared out just like they are on my Vet, but also the front bumper has a little slit in the front that I think it's there mainly cosmetic, but you could tell the difference because the original, the basic Corvettes don't actually have them. So after you actually looked over all the everything for the Corvette, and if you have a good feeling about it and you want to go for a test drive, I will go ahead and take a test drive. If you don't have a good feeling about it, but they keep insisting for you to take a test drive, and you see red flags, it's not idling right, it's too dirty, things just don't look right, something doesn't feel right about it, I would get in the passenger seat, which is what I did on one of the test drives. I got in the passenger seat and I let the other person drive because I didn't have a confident feeling about that car, and I didn't want anything to go wrong with me behind the wheel. But when you're in that test drive, what you're going to be feeling for, you're going to be just feeling for everything about the car. You're going to be listening for sounds. Don't allow them to play the radio. Don't allow the dealer to talk to you 1,000 words per minute. Just listen for the car. Just feel how it responds. If you're driving, try to get into it just a little bit. You know, try to get it above 3,000 RPMs. Just try to feel how the car responds, how it reacts. That's what I would recommend. Most dealers will actually let you do that as long as you do it in a safe manner. And at some point, I really recommend through this whole process that you try to sneak in the question of, hey, so how did you become in possession of this car, or why are you selling it? And try to listen for the answer. So what I found out is that cars that are for auction, that came off an auction block, that the dealer got it from an auction, there's something wrong with them. I've ran across a car, I ran across about 3 of them in my search that had check engine lights. And that's an immediate red flag. If you see a check engine light, that's an immediate red flag, despite what the dealer says to you. Now, I don't care if they say that, you know, the O2 sensors are out or the cats are disconnected. They should have had that fixed. They should have the codes cleared and the things repaired prior to you getting there. And one of the reasons why you start the car on early is because all those codes, if they tried to reset them, was set back in after the car's been running for about 10 or 12 minutes, after you do your walk around and things of that nature, that those codes are resurfaced. So try to figure out how did they come in possession of that car. This car, the orange car that I actually just got, I found out that the person just traded it in because they needed to get an SUV. But I did run across a few of them that are from auction, and they just rubbed me the wrong way. And I'm not saying that you can't get a good car at auction, but there was check engine lights. There was just too many things wrong with it. They couldn't say. It just didn't feel right. And if it don't feel right, there's about 1,000 more Corvettes out there. Another thing that I forgot to hit on is that while the car is running, before the test drive and after the test drive, is to just look underneath the car as best you can and try to find out if you see any leaking oil, any leaking transmission fluid, any leaking coolant, and try to wipe it physically with your hand. If it's cold and it's just normal water, that's probably coming from the AC that you have running. If it's red, it's transmission fluid. If it's cold, if it's orange, it's going to be coolant, and of course black and stuff is oil. After the test drive is over, I would turn the car off. And then I will go back around and I will pop the hood, and I will let the engine cool for about 15 to 20 minutes. And after you let the engine cool for quite a while, what I would do is I would check the oil. So I would check this oil. You pull this out here. This is the oil dipstick, and you're just checking it for if it's the right color, or a dark black color, or a very deep brown color, and also checking the level. If it's getting cool enough, but I would definitely wait for it to get cool enough, is I would check the coolant level as well. As you can see through it, and you can see it's at the appropriate level. But I would take the cap off and check and see if there's any dark substances floating in it. If the color looks right, it should be a nice tangy orange, kind of like the same color of the Corvette here. If it's too dark or if it's too light, that means the mixture is wrong, or the coolant is actually bad and needs to be changed, and that could be another red flag to the car because it hasn't been serviced correctly. And those are a couple of things I will look at. But at the same time, after the ride is all over, run through your gauges again, and also through your drive, run it through the gauges again to make sure that the car is still running in its correct operating temperatures. That's kind of like all I really have. Don't just look at one car, try to look at multiple ones of them. And when you go in there with your KBB value, you find out the KBB value, you get the mileage and stuff like that. Just try to make sure you're getting a fair deal on a price on it. I'm pretty sure there's a whole bunch of other little nuances and little things that people might try to recommend to you, or people have done on their own, and this is just my take on it. You're talking to, giving advice from somebody who's purchased two C6s, two C5s, and 3 of those cars. The only one were blind sales, which means I didn't even do them in person. The orange one is the only one I did in person. So for like my my wife's black Corvette, I had the owner do all of the stuff that I just did on a continuous video without stopping, all the way from going under and checking underneath the vehicle, to checking for leaks, to you know, all the normal function checks of turn signals and stuff like that. And I had a good feeling and a good rapport with them through conversations, where I felt like I was buying a good car. And that person I found on a Corvette forum. And that was for my wife's C6. Haven't had an issue with it ever since. And same thing I did with my first 99 C5 Corvette. Ran through the same thing, had no issues with it, just lost it in a flood. Now the C5, the silver C5 Corvette that I had from 97, that one was modified. That one was modified. It already had a cam in it, and I didn't go through a thorough process that I did with the other ones, and I paid for it very shortly down the road. So once I got the car, I found out that these mirrors right here, the driver's side mirror, it would not fold in, which is not a big deal, but it was like glued, fixed in one position. Also found out the passenger side window would not roll up from the driver's side, so I had to reach across and roll it up manually. Also found out that just little things here and there that I would have caught in person. But another problem with buying a modified car is that it had a cam in it. 3 months after owning it, a lifter failed and the engine was just gone. And I had to spend all this money to replace the engine, and I ended up going with an LS3. But that's one of the risks you have to go buying a modded car. And I noted that going forward, I would not go buy a modded car unless there's proper paperwork to back it up on who did it, and how, you know, like receipts, reputable shop, things of that nature. So I went to go see a 2005 Corvette, and it didn't have any of that stuff to back it up. It was supposed to be a twin turbo. The turbos weren't even hooked up. They told me they took it to a good shop called 21st Century Muscle. I called 21st Century Muscle. They said that we'd never seen that car. Stay away from that car as much as possible. And there was just too many red flags. So unless they have the paperwork to show it up and back it up, I'm talking about dyno numbers, dyno graphs, the shop it went to, receipts, things of that nature, I would say stay away from it. Getting into a modded car, you're taking on a risk that you don't know what's going to happen, and you're going to be paying out of pocket. So getting a stock car is probably the safest one, and then go for it from there. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people who can make comments about it and have their own different method. This is just me. I have some very good success with you know, the one C5 and my wife C6, going through blind sales online through the Corvette forum, which had great cars. But that silver one that I found that I had issues with, I found through Auto Trader, which is something that I should have, you know, spent the time to go across country and check it out before I actually purchased it. Not gonna keep rambling on. I'm pretty sure this has gone too far. But you know, if you like what you see, hit a like button, give some comments if you have any insight to what you look for in a car. Like and subscribe, and thank you for looking at my channel, looking at my video, and have a good day.